If they're fast, you rush. If they're slow, you're still anxious. Without that auditory cue, it's very difficult to find your own consistent rhythm. Today, let's focus on understanding rhythm, the rising phase, the peak of the bounce, and the falling phase. We'll cover what timing to use for each type of ball. First, let's talk about rushing your shots against topspin. What causes you to hit the ball too early? It's because you are not recovering your position. Your rhythm for each shot should be complete. However, many players are too hasty, and rushing the shot causes them to hit the net. You can get a topspin ball over with just a simple touch, so why are you hitting it into the net? The reason is you don't recover fully after each shot. This makes you creep closer to the ball, eventually causing you to hit the net. Failing to recover means you can't use your body's combined force, and without that, you can't generate any real power. You must recover fully after every single shot, instead of getting more rushed as the rally continues. The second issue is also recovery. Let me demonstrate. Many amateurs have a slow recovery. After their shot, they just leave their arm extended. When the next ball comes, you feel you're out of time, so you instinctively rush the shot, and that's when you hit it too early. For example, it's very common to rush the shot in a backspin to topspin transition because after you loop, your arm just stays there. When the ball is right in front of you, you feel it's too late, and only then do you try to recover. If you don't fix your recovery habit, I can tell you a million times not to rush, but you won't be able to do it. Because you see the ball coming and feel you're out of time, you'll naturally hurry your stroke. But if you loop the ball and immediately recover, your rhythm will be perfect and smooth. This is exactly why you rush your shots during rallies. The first reason is incomplete recovery, looping and then hitting from the same forward position. The second is slow recovery. When your opponent's ball comes, you rush your swing because you feel you can't complete the full motion. And that's why you hit too early. It's the same for the backhand. If you loop and don't move, you'll rush the next shot. If you loop and recover, your next shot will have great rhythm. That's the recovery issue. So, what's the second reason for rushing your shots? Most people who do this simply stand too close to the table. Let me explain the visual aspect of this. It's because you're standing too close. You might feel like you're hitting the ball outside the table, but it's impossible to do that from a close position, you'll get jammed. So, if you stand close, you are definitely making contact inside the table area. And if you're hitting inside the table, telling you not to rush the shot is impossible. If the ball bounces here, the peak is over there. I have to be positioned over there to hit it at its peak. If I hit it here while the ball is still rising, I'm rushing the shot. If the opponent's shot is deep, the peak is even further back. So I need to be there to hit it properly. If I stand here and just swing forward, I'm rushing the shot. So the reason you're rushing is that you're standing too close. The ball lands and starts to rise, but before it can reach the peak of its arc, your paddle has already made contact. You're not trying to rush, your position is forcing you to. See? That's rushing the shot. If I move back just a little, from the same spot, I can hit it at its peak. 90% of players who rush their shots do so because they are too close to the table. Rushing forces you to just push or block the ball. You can't execute a proper stroke because there's no time for a backswing. Everyone who rushes the shot makes contact too close to their body. If I try to take a full backswing from here, I can't keep up with the ball. So my only option is no backswing. When a topspin ball lands on your side, it has a lot of forward momentum. If it has extra spin, it will kick even more. Your positioning dictates that when your paddle meets the ball, it's not at the peak but in the rising phase, forcing you to rush. If you get one rushed shot on the table, you're lucky. 2 is a miracle. By the third, you'll almost certainly make an error. For rallies, you need to maintain at least one arm's length of distance from the table. You might feel comfortable standing this close when practicing simple forehand drives. That's because in practice, you're both just blocking the ball back and forth. But in a match, your opponent's shots will be much deeper. When they hit a deep ball to your forehand and you're still this close, you won't have time to execute a proper stroke. In a match, players try to win the point with one powerful shot, so the quality of the ball is much higher. It's no longer a friendly exchange, it's an attacking shot meant to finish the point. So, while standing close in practice might help you connect with the ball, especially with a tacky rubber, you absolutely must create more space for yourself. Give yourself space. Even if the ball goes deep, hitting from this position allows me to contact it at the peak of its bounce. That's what keeping an arm's length distance does. If the ball is short, I can always step in to meet it. Okay, next, let's discuss the proper rhythm for topspin balls. We'll categorize them into fast topspin, regular topspin, and short balls. All three types should be hit at the peak of the bounce. For example, give me a slightly faster forehand ball. The problem right now is not being able to keep up with this pace. Watch my shot. Even if it's fast, am I hitting it at its peak or on the rise? It's at the peak. I'm just executing my motion faster. That's why when you watch professional matches, you need to see the difference. The players look incredibly fast, but even with fast footwork, I'm still hitting the ball at its peak. My movements are fast, that's all. But the rhythm of my contact with the ball is still at the peak of the bounce, not during the rising phase. What about a slower ball? When a slower ball comes over 1, 2, that's the peak. 1, 2. The third type is a short ball. When you see a short ball, don't rush it. Why do you rush short balls? Because you're standing here, you see it's short, and you're afraid you can't reach it. So you instinctively just push your arm forward. And that's rushing. Instead, you need to move your feet first, then your hand. Get your feet in position, then execute the stroke. Against topspin, because I'm a rally-oriented player, the golden contact point is the peak of the bounce. Hitting topspin at its peak is ideal because it's the highest point, allowing you to drive forward powerfully. Since there's little spin to counter, you can just focus on forward power. So, when do I start my motion to hit this peak, regardless of the ball's speed? For a fast ball, listen for this sound, the sound of the ball hitting my side of the table. The moment I hear that thud, I start my swing. The instant I hear that sound, I swing. This is the secret to how I find my timing against topspin. You have to listen when you play. My hearing is very sharp. For instance, if I'm in another room and hear people playing, I can tell if they're hitting a forehand or backhand, topspin or backspin, just by the sound. This is probably because when my coach taught me about rhythm, I got into the habit of listening for that sound to initiate my swing. If you don't use this sound as your cue, you'll just react to your opponent. If they're fast, you rush. If they're slow, you're still anxious. Without that auditory cue, it's very difficult to find your own consistent rhythm. Just follow the rhythm of that sound. Watch as he hits to my full table. I start my swing right after I hear the thud. For a higher quality shot, I just use more power at the moment I hear that sound. It doesn't mean I rush just because I'm hitting harder. See? I just apply force based on that sound cue. My rhythm doesn't become frantic just because I'm trying to add power. Only when you have this solid rhythm can you force your opponent out of theirs and make them commit errors. Otherwise, you'll be the one making unforced errors before they even challenge you. This timing cue is the secret behind my consistent rallies over all these years. I remember it clearly from when I was on the Sichuan provincial team. I was less than 10 years old. When I first joined, my coach told me my rhythm was too fast because, like many young girls, I liked to crowd the table and slap at the ball. When you hear the ball land, you start your swing. Let me be clear, you start your swing when you hear the sound, not make contact. You hear the thud, then you start your swing. It's the same for looping. Hear the thud, then swing. Hear the bounce, then swing. If the ball lands quickly, you swing quickly. If it lands slowly, you swing slowly. When defending a high ball, listen for the bounce. Don't be anxious. Players are always in a hurry because they don't listen for that sound cue. Watch my drive. I hear the bounce, then I swing. Now watch my loop. I hear the bounce, then I swing. As long as I don't use excessive force, it's very hard for me to miss. There is no technique in table tennis that doesn't require a backswing, it's just a matter of how big or small it is. Your problem is you make contact with the ball when your swing is already almost finished. This forces you to rush the shot. Looping is the same. Hear the bounce, then swing. This rhythm applies no matter where you stand on the court. It's not just for close to the table play. With this timing, even if your opponent changes the pace, it won't affect you at all. The same issue applies to a short forehand push followed by a long backhand push. The short push is slow, then the long one is fast. You can't keep up with the rhythm. That's simply a change of pace.